Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1021, 1021, Tuesday, January the 21st, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, we got some things to cover today, so let's go ahead and get right to it. Before I get into the new news of the day, I just wanted to follow up on the very end of yesterday's video. A lot of people don't actually watch, excuse me, a lot of people don't actually watch all of my video. So if you didn't watch all of yesterday's video, at the very end of the video, I mentioned that Bill Still had just done a video where he had been interviewing this whistleblower along with Bill Binney. And there was also a link left in the comment section of the previous day's video from Cards for this video. Now, I had already clicked on it and watched it, but I was letting you all know that in case you hadn't, you could watch this video. So in this video, at the very end of the video, Bill Still says that Bill Binney told him that John Durham currently has 29 indictments. Now, he doesn't say what Bill Binney's source is for that, and while I think that that's possibly the case, most likely even the case, I think Bill Binney is a straight shooter. I think Bill Still is pretty much a straight shooter. I don't think they just make things up, but it doesn't mean that they necessarily have got it right. I would be very interested to know what the source is for that. Now, I tried to follow up on that and see if I could find any other source that John Durham currently has indictments. Now, John Durham has many, many indictments, I know, because I Google John Durham every day, or John Durham indictments every day. He's a U.S. attorney in the state of Massachusetts, and so he has many, many cases ongoing that he signs off on that are being run out of his office. So he indicts people every single day. John Durham indicts a lot of people. Every day he's indicting people in the state of Massachusetts for crimes. So, yeah, he's indicting a lot of people, and usually they're typical indictments, but obviously a lot of times U.S. attorneys will have sealed indictments. Cases that they're working on, people they indict, but they're not quite ready to release the indictment and move forward with it, so they sit on it for sometimes a year or even more maybe. So, if John Durham does have 29 indictments against people in the Spygate related situation, then those would be sealed indictments. If they were public, we would certainly know about them. Especially I would, because I Google it every day, and I see John Durham indicted, his office indicted so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so. He indicts people, his office indicts people every day. But as far as seeing any of the Spygate plotters, the coup plotters names pop up, I'm not seeing that. So these would likely be sealed indictments. In fact, they would obviously be sealed indictments, so we would know about them. So then my next question would be, how is William Binney getting this information? Because, a sealed indictment is a sealed indictment for a reason. And you have to be very much in the know, in the very inside, deep inside the Department of Justice, wherever this is filed. And again, we don't even know where this has been filed, whether he's talking about, is this filed in the District of Columbia? Is this filed in Massachusetts? Is this filed in New York? I mean, where are these indictments, these sealed indictments? We're obviously talking about sealed indictments. Where are they filed? Now, how would William Binney get that information? Well, he was an NSA spook, so maybe he knows how. But I would think that that if there were sealed indictments on Spygate conspirators, and you somehow, a person who was not supposed to know that, got that information, and you publicly stated it, you would probably have a couple federal agents knocking on your door wanting to know where you got that information. So we'll find out if William Binney or Bill Still get a knock on the door from federal agents wanting to know where Bill Still heard about that, because leaking that type of information or having that type of information on sealed indictments is something that would probably be of interest to the court where those sealed indictments have been filed. Somebody obviously would have leaked that information because Bill Binney and Bill Still are likely not authorized persons to know that. So that's my first position, why I scratch my head and wonder how legitimate this is. How would they know about such a thing? And if they do know about it, it's only because someone who wasn't supposed to say anything about that did. So I'm just curious more than anything else. And I'm not saying it's not necessarily true. I'm just saying that how did they find this out? But it goes to another issue that I started thinking about. Okay, so kind of forget about that. That's what it is. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know where these indictments are filed, how Bill Binney found out about it, why, if he told Bill Still, why Bill Still, as smart as he is, would do a video stating that if he knew it was true, knowing good and well that having that type of information automatically assumes something happened that shouldn't have happened, which was something was leaked that shouldn't have been leaked to someone it shouldn't have been leaked to. So anyway, that's where it is. And I tried to follow up on that and see if there was any other reports of that, and I can't find anything about anyone else making that claim. Not saying it's not true. I'm just saying it's not corroborated well enough for me to be able to go over to my timeline and actually, because I'd love to put that in my timeline. The problem is there's not enough evidence for me at this point to go with it. It's interesting enough to mention it in my video, but it's not solid enough that I would put it in my timeline as a fact. I try to keep my timeline only to facts, not things I hear are true or think are true, but my timeline is things that have come out that have been proven true. It's a factual timeline. So it doesn't work for my timeline, but it's interesting enough to put into a video to at least talk about. Now, there's another thing going on here too. When you look at all that's being done, not just the attempted coup on Trump, but since then this Ukraine hoax, the attempt to get the impeachment and all that. And there's a little more going on with that too, because over the last 2 weeks or so, we have also seen these video clips from the fake news media talking about Bill Barr and Mike Pence being caught up in this Ukraine thing. And there have been commentators on these left-wing media outlets suggesting that Bill Barr should be impeached, that Pence should be impeached because he's in the know about what happened with this Ukraine stuff, and that Bill Barr should also be impeached because his involvement in this Ukraine stuff. And that he should, first it was he should recuse himself, then it's Bill Barr should be impeached and all this kind of stuff. So that's pretty interesting stuff that you would hear a media outlet calling for the attorney general to be impeached when there's really no reason that you can think of. He's already denied, as has the Justice Department, that they have any knowledge of what Mr. Parnas is claiming. They say it's factually 100% false. Barr has stated in his interview with Martha McCallum that he's not directed any investigation personally into Ukraine. Now, what Mr. Durham is working on, he doesn't know as far as Ukraine's concerned, but he's not done anything about Ukraine or looked into Ukraine or paid any attention that much, really, is what he told Martha McCallum. He really doesn't know much about what is going on in Ukraine other than what he hears. So, something to think about when you look at the previous thing we were just talking about is the fact of the matter is it is likely at this point that John Durham has filed sealed indictments against some of the coup conspirators. I mean, I'm not doubting that fact. I'm questioning how Bill Binney would come into that information. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying, how would he get that information? And I'm saying right now that I think it's likely, certainly possible, and probably likely that John Durham has already, as he's going through his investigation, and he finds various people that he finds have committed these crimes, he probably indicts them, and he seals the indictment because he's not ready to unseal all the indictments because he's still continuing his investigation, and by unsealing those indictments, indicting someone right now might screw up his investigation. So he doesn't want those indictments to be made public, or he doesn't want to pursue them right now until he gets far enough into his investigation to where he doesn't think that going ahead and unsealing the indictments and moving forward will no longer hinder his investigation. But keep in mind, there are people within wherever he's filing these indictments who would know. And you can bet that there are deep state coup plotter allies buried all within the Department of Justice, whether it's in New York or Boston or wherever, D.C. You know that there are deep state anti-Trump operatives buried within those places who work there, who are anti-Trumpers. And if they found out the names of some of these coup conspirators who had been indicted and had sealed indictments against them, they would likely leak that to their friends. That would be people like Adam Schiff, the bug-eyed fool, maybe Nancy Pelosi, maybe someone they know in the DNC, maybe someone they know in Maine Justice, who would then pass that information over to Nadler or someone like that. So there certainly are people who certainly would be within corrupt people within the corrupt system who may have access to that information of people who may have sealed indictments against them regarding the Spygate investigation. And those individuals would likely leak this information to their comrades who may be Democrat politicians, Democratic Party operatives, Democratic lawyers, other people working at Maine Justice or FBI. So certainly you can see where these types of things would occur. And if that is the case, that would certainly explain the past couple of weeks why I keep seeing these clips from left-wing media outlets bringing guests on to talk about why Pence and specifically Barr should be impeached. Because if they know that Durham has sealed indictments on these various people, what you would want to do is get rid of Barr so that you could get some deep stater in there who could shut down the investigation. Or you just want to use it to target Barr and eventually Durham as being, Trump's henchmen or something like that. But that would certainly be a reason why the Democrats would be acting so unhinged. Because let's face it, what they're doing in this impeachment thing is a loser. They know it's a loser. They know it likely will be dismissed. Certainly Trump will not be found guilty. It's going to be thrown out. Trump's going to be exonerated, however you want to look at it. They're going to fail in the impeachment effort. But yet they went ahead with it anyway. They've taken a tremendous political hit. They've helped Trump. They've done all these things. They can't be this stupid to think that what they're doing is helping them and hurting Trump. It's really not. Why would they take such great risks? These are all or nothing plays. These are Hail Mary passes. What we've been witnessing, and it's just like this thing with Parnes. Before that, it was something else. Before that, something else. These are Hail Mary passes. These are desperate plays. These are not the way that a good, smart, strategic group of politicians would behave and act if, in fact, they were, trying to recover from the previous loss, put together a much better campaign, and try to defeat Trump in 2020 or win an election or strengthen their candidates or whatever. These are not normal plays. What the types of things that we are seeing are Hail Mary passes. They're very risky. They carry a lot of downside, and the only upside that they would see has enormous odds. But they continue to pursue it anyway, and not only they, but their operatives in the left-wing media continue to be the choir singing the tune. So, based on that, that tells me that they have a great fear of something. They know something. Now, maybe it's just that they feel in their gut and they know in their head that, yes, Durham's investigating, and they know all the things that went down, and they know that he's likely going to uncover that and indict people, and it's going to be very damaging to the Democrats and to Obama's legacy and to a lot of their friends who have a lot of information which could be used against them as leverage. So there's a lot of power plays that could go on as a result of charging these high-level people who have a lot of dirt on a lot of other high-level people who are Democrats. These individuals, once charged, will be looking for any leverage they have to get out of it. And they could use that leverage against people like Clinton, against people like Lynch, against Obama himself, whoever. So there's a lot of fear, with a lot of these Democrats. And that would explain why that they're making these Hail Mary passes, why they're taking these extremely risky maneuvers that could very well and likely will fail and end up backfiring on them. Why would they take such great risks and continue it, even when they can see it's really not working out? Well, it may be all they've got. And it may be the fact that that's how frightened they are. And they're calling for Barr to be impeached. These are desperate things that they're doing. So I think it is possible that there could be people within one of these court systems, wherever these indictments are going to be filed by John Durham. And I don't know where these indictments will be filed, whether he's going to file them in Massachusetts, whether he's going to file them in District of Columbia, whether he's going to file them in New York, Virginia. I have no idea where these indictments, sealed indictments or regular open indictments, where they will be filed or when they will be filed. But if in fact Durham does file these indictments, and at this point we'd be talking sealed indictments, there obviously are going to be people within those court systems that would have access to that information. It's not many people, it's just a few people, but they would have that information. And if they are supporters of the demo commies, supporters of the deep state, they got friends who may be involved, maybe they know Comey, maybe they know McCabe, maybe they're Democratic, they got friends who are Democrats in high levels of high positions, maybe they're friends of Hillary, friends of Obama, who knows? There are likely people within those systems who would know that these indictments are there, and they could likely leak that information, and that would certainly explain the behavior of the Democrats and why they're doing these such extremely risky maneuvers, which have so much possible downside. And so the upside, if they were successful, would be great, but the odds of that are very tiny. The odds are much better that they're not going to be successful, and there's a lot of potential damage that's going to occur from that. So that there may be something going on here, is what I'm saying, is that you see these calls for Barr to be impeached. It could be that someone has within one of these court systems knows that there are indictments against the coup plotters. They've given that information, leaked it to, or given that information to certain individuals who may have shared it with others within the Democratic cabal, and they may know that this is coming down, and so they either want to try to impeach Barr and get rid of him, and that would mean bringing in someone else who would shut down Durham and his investigation and nullify it, or to use it as a smear campaign against Barr and Durham once the indictments actually come out. So this is kind of what's going on with all this. I think this is something we have to consider, but I don't know. This is just common logic to me. It's just common logic. Indictments are filed somewhere, sealed or otherwise. People are going to find out, and some people may choose to leak. And maybe if that information gets to certain people, they may decide, we're in a world of hurt. What are we going to do? And then they do this kind of stuff, which has a lot of downside, is very risky. But that would explain, this would explain why they're taking such great risk and making such dangerous moves, because they've been told that Durham has sealed indictments against some fairly high-level people in the previous administration. Just a thought. I don't know this. It's just, to me, following logic. as far as backing up what Bill Binney or Bill Still said, I can find no other sources for that. But help yourself. If you can find it, please put it in the comment section. Well, of course, we were happy to see that the rally yesterday in Virginia was peaceful and there was no problems, although there were efforts by some provocateurs to cause some problems, but they were called out by the people there at the gathering, and they were told, hey, you know, hit the road, pal. What you're selling is not what we're here to do. So I saw several videos of provocateurs, whether they were working for someone or just were there on their own, I don't know. But there were attempts by provocateurs to stir up something. They failed, and so we were happy to see it was peaceful. But one thing that was very disgusting that we saw all throughout the day coming out of the fake news media was describing the people who were attending this rally or protest or whatever you want to call it, describing them as white nationalist. White nationalist. And, you know, the term white nationalist, I mean, it's meant to be a derogatory term, but if you say the word nationalist, I don't think that's a derogatory term. I consider myself a nationalist, and I am white, but you could be a black nationalist, you could be an Asian nationalist. I mean, it just means that you are, you know, not a globalist. You're the opposite of a globalist. You're a nationalist, not a globalist. That's what it means to me. But they use the term white nationalist because they want to inject that racial element and even that fascist element into it to make people who support gun rights look like Hitler or something like that. And it just shows you how disgusting that this fake news media is. And I just wish people would just turn them off. I wish they had just 0 ratings, just nobody would just ever watch this garbage. But it's pathetic that we had to sit and look at that and read those types of descriptions about the people attending that rally just to protect their Second Amendment rights. So, I mean, I don't see them describing people who protest against the Second Amendment, people proposing gun control. I don't see them describing them as you know, commies, as communists, you know, or anything like that, which is exactly what those type of people would typically be. People want to take away your firearms would generally be people who are commies. So, yeah, it's just despicable, and it shouldn't surprise us, and it really doesn't surprise me. It's just, you know, there it is. I'm sure you guys you saw that as well. Well, it looks like we are getting multiple media reports yesterday that a National Security Council Russia expert named Andrew Peek was escorted out of the White House yesterday, pending a security review. Peek was the senior director for European and Russian affairs. Peek had been at the NSC for only 2 months. Peek was supposed to be traveling to Davos with Trump. Of course, that's not happening anymore. Peek worked under pro-Hillary, anti-Trump General John Allen, who of course lost his command in Afghanistan after having problems with his zipper. The same type of problems that General Petraeus had with his zipper. Peek came from the State Department. Although not proven yet, Peek appears to have been a mole, a resistance spy sent into the Trump campaign as part of the resistance effort by the deep state. He may have been sent in to leak documents to the impeachment team of Pelosi, Schiff, and Nadler. Schiff, of course, was on TV just the day before complaining that the NSA is withholding documents relevant to his oversight. So there we go, another deep stater rooted out. And the fact that they escorted him out of the building and he's not allowed to participate in his job anymore until he goes through the security review tells me he's being investigated for leaking something. And we can see what company he keeps. We also have another claim that popped up yesterday, and this one comes from Jack Burkman. Now, many of you know that I don't like Jack Burkman. Well, I don't know him personally. I've never met the guy. He might be a perfectly nice guy. I just don't buy 99% of what comes out of his pie hole. But this story is getting some coverage, and it's been quite a few different sites were mentioning it, so I figured I would mention it. But just keep in mind, the source of this is Jack Burkman. So again, I would take something like this with almost a grain of salt, maybe a couple grains of salt on this particular case, because there are photos of Adam Schiff and Ed Buck together. And so the story is, as it's being told by Jack Burkman, that a senior House Republican has transmitted a photo of Adam the Bug-Eyed Fool Schiff with Ed Buck. And this photo has been transferred over to redstate.com by this senior House Republican. Now, Burkman alleges that the picture shows the Bug-Eyed Fool Schiff and Ed Buck sitting on a sofa along with a scantily clad young black man, seemingly under the influence of narcotics, and on the coffee table next to them is what looks like drugs and some paraphernalia. The picture was apparently discovered by federal agents after they raided Ed Buck's home in Los Angeles. So a pic of, now I've seen pics of Ed Buck and Adam Schiff before. Buck raises a lot of money. There's also a couple of pics of the Right Reverend Clinton with Ed Buck. He also was a supporter of hers who raised money for the Right Reverend Clinton. So again, just because you're pictured with someone in a photo does not necessarily mean anything. But in this particular case, there's multiple photos, and I don't think the Bug-Eyed Fool will deny that he is a friend and knows Buck quite well. The fact that they're pictured in Buck's home or somewhere where there is a couch that they're sitting on, that there's a scantily clad black man, which is the problem that Buck seems to have, and that he appears to be on narcotics, and there appears to be also in the photo drugs and paraphernalia. It's probably not good if you are head of the House Intelligence Committee and a politician. That would get a lot of politicians thrown out of office. Generally, if you're associated with something like that, you have to explain it, and that would be a hard thing to explain, and you might have to just, resign. So if this pic is out there and Red State has it, why the hell haven't they shown it? We'll watch and see tomorrow, maybe the next day. The next day, maybe they're checking with their lawyers to find out what their liability may be if they show the pic or something like that. Maybe they're making sure it's not doctored or something. But we'll be keeping our eye peeled to see if that photo actually emerges. Again, this is coming from Jack Burkman. So I would say don't hold your breath. I would assume it's just not going to happen like most things Burkman says. But on the odd possibility of the broken clock theory, that he's right once a day or twice a day, maybe this picture pops up. But there you have it. It's being covered by a lot of different news sites. Well, our good friends over at Judicial Watch have filed 2 FOIA requests on Marie Yovanovitch. Judicial Watch is looking to uncover what Yovanovitch was doing, ordering the State Department to illegally monitor private citizens, such as Sean Hannity, Dan Bongino, Sarah Carter, John Solomon, Trump Jr., Jack Posobiec, Rudy Giuliani, Sebastian Gorka, and about a dozen others. I've seen the list. There's about 20 people on it. Why did Yovanovitch order the State Department, and how can the ambassador order the State Department to monitor private citizens, and why is the State Department monitoring private citizens who are journalists, lawyers, or whatever? All these people have one thing in common. They're Trump supporters. I mean, are they doing something illegal? Are they being accused of doing something illegal? As far as I know, they're not. They're just Trump supporters. Why is the State Department spying on behalf of an ambassador who's only in her position over in Ukraine, put there to cover up the crimes of the Democrats? Yes, I'm glad that Judicial Watch is going to subpoena these documents through the FOIAs. I hope they get them. I don't know that they will, but I hope they get them. But there should absolutely be a deep dive into Yovanovitch, and maybe Lindsey Graham could call her in to question her, but don't count on it. He hasn't held a single hearing. He was going to get to the bottom of everything. He was going to call on everybody who touched the FISA, the dossier. He was going to do all this. Every time I see this guy on Sean Hannity, he's telling what he's going to do, how he's going to get to the bottom of everything. He hasn't done a damn thing. But if he was going to start, this would be a damn good place to start. Start with the Yovanovitch. Why in the world is an ambassador ordering the State Department to spy on Americans who are not breaking any laws or doing anything wrong? Why is the State Department involved in something like this? Why is a Ukrainian ambassador involved in something like this? That question needs to be answered, and it's a shame that it wasn't those questions were not answered when she was in front of the House Intelligence Committee when she was being questioned. I wondered why no one asked these questions. They knew about all this at that time. Well, we had Amy Klobuchar during a lunch presser. I didn't, she's sitting there having lunch, I guess, doing an interview with a news person. I didn't see a comb at the table, so I don't know if she was eating or not. But anyway, in this little sort of interview, she said that most people end up marrying their prom date, but she didn't because her prom date turned out to be gay. She's a real, she's nuts. Which brings us to the next headline story, which is the New York Times on Sunday came out and endorsed Warren and Klobuchar. That's crazy. Well, Klobuchar has never been in the top tier. She's always been a bottom dweller. She's never been in the top tier, so I don't know why they would throw an endorsement behind Klobuchar. She has, at this point, doesn't appear she has any chance whatsoever of being the nominee. Warren is crazy, and she's a pathological liar. She's a mess. I mean, she's just a mess. Why they would endorse her, I don't know. These are obviously wishes for the New York Times and not who they think will actually win. What's funny here is that they did not come out and endorse Biden. They did not come out and endorse Biden. So the New York Times is great friends with the Right Reverend Clinton and Barack Hussein Obama. It's probably why they didn't come out and endorse Biden. And it tells you a lot about what Obama, Clinton, and people that run in their circle think about Biden. Tells you a lot. And if that's what they think about Biden, you can bet that they're just not going to they're not just going to stand by and allow this guy to get the nomination. But if they take him out, the next guy in line is Bernie. That's the problem they have. They don't want Biden, but if they don't get Biden, they end up with Bernie, and they want him even less. That's a problem. I'm glad it's their problem and not ours. But they got the Right Reverend Clinton hovering, and they can rig a brokered convention if it comes to that. And I'm thinking at least 50-50 shot that's going to happen. Peter Schweizer's new book, of course, came out about a week ago, and it literally destroys not just Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, but his entire Biden family. He names 5 Bidens who have scammed a ton of money through corruption and influence. And immediately after this, well, not immediately, but like maybe a week or so after the book came out and people started talking about what's in the book, the Biden campaign sent memos or letters, whatever you want to call them, to all the major media networks, warning them about talking about any of the accusations made in the book, claiming that they've all been debunked and they're untrue. So this is the kind of thing that you see. And of course, the media has dutifully fallen in line because you're not hearing them report on any of this, despite the fact that Schweizer's book, like all his books, are loaded with footnotes. There's not a single accusation there that has been made that they can take him to task on. And if the information in the book is wrong, if they can even find one fact that's wrong, based on that, Biden could sue Peter Schweizer. Why hasn't he sued Peter Schweizer if everything in his book is false? The reason is because it's not false. Mad Maxine Waters has said, well, don't worry about the fact that Trump may not be removed from office because there's more investigations coming. Mad Max. Yes, indeed. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. That's what's going on today. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you guys. Have a good night. Bye.